Hello everyone, welcome to Yoga Duty. Today we are going to talk about meditation. As you know, I am taking a 300 hours advanced yoga teacher training online, mostly via Zoom. And meditation was one of the courses. It was a 50 hours mandatory course. And I would like to share with you some of the things that we learned in the course. I already knew this particular one, but we basically revised it and we practice. Meditation, as you know, is a practice to quiet the mind and to clear the mind and to focus the mind. So there is a technique to accomplish all of that. And one of the techniques is the posture. How do you establish your body in the space to meditate? So I'm going to explain you the most popular position that is called the Burmese position, and it's a seated position. And it's a cross-legged position, but the cross-legged position doesn't come as a second nature to most of us, and it's actually a difficult position to keep. If you look my classes at the beginning, if you go to the playlist class sequences, you will see that I start in this position, cross legs, sit down in your sitting bones, and we breathe here. But we can keep this posture because we are only doing 3 cycles of pranayama, and then I explain the Ujjayi breathing. So of course we can keep this position for a few minutes. But look at the position. The knees are up, they are above the hip. The spine have the tendency to get rounded. I really need to make an effort to keep the head above, and the shoulders have the tendency to crunch forward. So what we need is a position that will stack the bones in a way that the alignment will release the muscles. And that is why people can stay in these postures for hours. Personally, the one that I'm showing to you, the longest I was able to meditate was 2.5 hours, and then I couldn't stay still anymore and I had to move. So let's show me the position. So this posture, the Burmese posture, has 7 principles, if you will. The first one, you need height. So look at this. I have some cushions here, and on top of this. So you need to be seated above. So we cannot be seated on the floor. So we are seated above. You can pile some cushions like this. You can have a special cushions for meditation. Others are called bolsters. They are all kind of gear to meditate. There are some chairs even to meditate. But you can grab something at home that you can pile up. Something that has some resistance. You don't want a cushion that you are going to, very soft, that you're going to go to the bottom. So you have to be tall. You have to be seated. Your hip has to stay tall. Then, so the first principle, we need to be seated in an elevated place. The second principle is that we need to turn the sole of the feet up. So as I was showing you before, if we keep the feet like this, pointing to the outside, 10 minutes from now, the pain is excruciating. You cannot hold these positions for a long time. So what we need to do is to actually change the way that the feet are located. So we turn from the hip, the knee down, and we turn the sole of the feet up, and we bring the heel close to the hip, and we turn the sole of the feet up. So what we have here is the second principle, that is that the sole of the feet are pointing up and the heels are up, and one heel is in front of the other. They are not on top of each other. One is in front and the other one is behind. Then The knees are on the floor. The knees are below the hip. Do you see this angle? This angle is key. So you want the knees below the hip. If you sit normally, your knees are above the hip. So you need this angle. And make sure that the heels are close to the hips, close to the cushions, and that the two heels are in one line. I cannot rotate that much. Technically, these heels should be completely pointing to the ceiling. This is the best I can do. But you see the angle that I have here. I am seated with the hips. So we are seated elevated. The knees are on the floor, below the hip. The sole of the feet are pointing up. They are completely turned. The heels are pointing up, and one heel is in front of the other. And then, very important, this is going to allow us to release the spine. So the lumbar spine here is released. It has a little bit of a curvature, but it's just neutral. Why? Because the bones are aligned this way. Very important, when I am seated like this, automatically the chest opens and the shoulders go down, and the head is on top. And I don't really need to make a lot of effort to stay like this. So this is the posture that you need if you want to stay seated for a long time. So what do you do with the arms? You can have the arms like this with the hands palms up. And if you watch my prior videos, that is yoga anatomy, when we talk about the planes of motion, this posture is supination. We have an external rotation of the shoulder and supination. So this is relatively easy for the shoulder and for the hand, but some people may get tired, so if you need, you can get your hands here, and sometimes you can even have a cushion for the arms, because you have to consider that if you stay like this 5 hours, 6 hours, like people do when they get into very deep, serious meditation in almost a contemplative state, and I don't know if you remember the limb number 6, dharana, focus, mind in one point, one pointed mind. So the focus is total and there is no outside world. So for a person to get in a contemplative state, the position has to really be conducive to that. So far, I already feel, I'm talking to you, that this is sustainable. This is something that I can see myself staying here for a long time. As I said, the longest I have been able to stay still in a position and meditate was 2.5 hours in a special workshop that I took years ago in a special place. It was an immersion meditation, super difficult because it's a silent meditation, you cannot talk. I found it very, very difficult. But this is doable. This, you don't need to stay here for a long time. You can stay for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't really practice meditation on regular basis. I do meditation as part of my yoga practice. So to me, it's yoga meditation. I always tag my meditation to yoga or to yoga practice or to yoga classes. In the teacher training, we, as I said, we have the course that was 50 hours, but most of the classes, they start with the meditation. And that is standard, I would say, in most of the advanced teacher training. I don't know in the 200 hours, I don't remember in the 200 hours to do a meditation before each class, but in an advanced course we did almost in every one. So remember, the hands can be a little bit of your choice, but the 7 principles, we can go them together. So we want to be seated in a height, you have to be seated elevated. The sole of the feet completely turned up to the ceiling with the heels and close to the hip. The knees on the floor, the knees always below the hip. The spine neutral. Chest open with shoulders down and the head on top. very soft. Remember, you have a little bit of a choice with the hands, and this is the Burmese posture. If you don't want to sit like this, because as I said, it's not that the cross-legged position comes easily, you can just do meditation seated in the chair. Just try not to be seated all the way with your back on the touching the chair. You want to be seated at the edge and try to keep this position with your hands on your thighs, and you should be fine. You can accomplish a very successful and meaningful meditation without doing much more than that. Thank you very much for joining me in this video. If you would like to subscribe so you can join me in the next videos. I am preparing some classes for the year 2021, a little bit different and more focused with topics. Thank you for joining, and namaste.